why the share price is increasing, the thing to keep in mind is that the share price is not as demanded by it's the overall weight of the market. And the market as a whole isn't rational, it's emotional. It reacts to fear and it reacts to hope. And anyone
Very
who does
true.
any kind of day trading will be able to tell you exactly this. You have you have the pure logical analysis, which is what robots do, which is why if you have a robot do trading for you, usually you are going to do fairly well, apart from when the times when a human is able to predict how other humans is going to react to this or that, is able to predict an emotional reaction. And then the human trader beats the shit out of the robot that uses only the analysis. I think what's going on here, because Mike is exactly right, there really is nothing good about the company.
Mm.
Apart from Bob Iger's complete and total non denial about them being bought by a company like Apple. If that were to happen, you know what's going to happen? Apple is going to come in, they're going to give an offer to every single shareholder to take over their shares at the price that is the market price plus even more. Meaning, if you were to buy Disney shares right now because you anticipate an Apple deal going forward at some point, you're going to see a nice profit when that happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you were to just as look at Disney in on their whole, completely ignore that aspect to it. I mean, yeah, the share price shouldn't even be in the 80s, maybe not even in the 60s, because this is a
Mm.
company that is, in a sense, too big to fail, but yet failing it is. There's no two ifs about it. Can they recover? Yeah, but it's going to take them freaking years to recover, to turn things around. It's a big ship, and it's going to take them a minimum of 5 years in order to be able to turn things around. But what can turn things around in a heartbeat is if someone like Apple comes in and says, hey, we're going to pick up this company. And if you want to hear my prediction, as I spoke to before, I think that after the next shareholder meeting, after the final quarterly results of this year, that's when it's going to happen.
Quick question, Andre. We know how the whole Fox thing went down. You know that was a 2 year venture for them to
Yeah. Very drawn
actually
out.
acquire it. If this happens with Apple, how long do you see this taking to get through all the red tape and governmental oversight before Apple actually owns Disney?
I think that there's two sides to it because one is in America and then it's the rest of the world. I think that in America it's going to go fast, really fast, and then the rest of the world is going to be the holdup. In the rest of the world, there's going to be legalities and stuff like that, but that's just like time-consuming stuff. I mean, you still have some repercussions from the Fox deal and everything, but it's not going to fundamentally stop
The
anything.
fact that he brought up regulations instead of just flat out denying any sales is kind of
Yeah,
telling to me.
yeah,
That
Yeah,
means that they're
true.
either
He never
A, in the
denied.
middle of something, and or it's definitely on the table. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
Tom is entirely right. I mean, Tom has been saying that this thing is more likely than anyone probably thinks, and he's entirely right about that. And that is what the market is reacting to right now. Look at all the trades they are writing about Apple buying Disney, and they're doing that because Bob Iger, and this was very, very scripted, did not deny anything. He phrased himself away to let the market know that this is something that
Mm.
can happen. Now, whether it is or not, that is what the share price is going with right now.
Well, I'd also say, on the topic of Disney sale to Apple and sort of the red tape and things like that, this article from the Hollywood Reporter, I think makes for a very interesting read because they're talking about the fact that the likelihood is that Disney will just segment the business up into tiny little pieces, and Apple will only buy bits and pieces of it. Basically, it won't be you know, the studio proper as a whole. There'll still be assets that are retained with Disney, etc. Like Disney are never going to sell the parks, or, you know, they won't sell the parks to Apple specifically. There's no point doing that. But, you know, the media elements, the studio elements, and bits and pieces of it, yeah, high chance being sold to Apple. And I mean, this has been floated for so long now. I remember covering this a couple of years back.
This little,
you know,
yeah, this little chestnut's been around for a decade now. This is not anything new. So.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I mean, I'm leaning towards your take on it. Is that you know, if they sell off anything to, I still think if they sell anything off to Apple, it's going to be like the Fox remnants, because I don't see an upside. You know, for parting with the things that are normally profitable. I mean, right now, the only thing I think is pulling in dollars for real is the cruise line, and that's it. I can't, as Mikey pointed out, and maybe just, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but as Mikey pointed out, I mean, they really, the only thing that they got for their EPS numbers was cuts. Cuts were the things that drove or preserved revenue this time around, and that's not a sustainable model. You're not going to lay off 7,000 more people like that. You're not going to write off a, you know, $700 million Star Cruiser hotel. So.
Yeah, but this is what makes people in the sort of business world really think that they're looking to do it. You know, if you see Bob start to divest things, that feels like he's prepping for a sale, and there's clearly no buyer like Apple. There is no one else that can really buy it.
Well, there are.
Of all the red tape.
Actually, there are, but with Apple, there would be less red tape, and also it is something that would go over easy, because there already is a significant shareholder overlap between Apple and Disney as it is. I mean, some of one of like Disney's largest individual or private shareholders is the widow of Steve Jobs.
Well, no, it's not what I was about to say. I was going to say something else. Was it BlackRock or Vanguard recently just become quite large shareholders in Apple as well, like sort of trying to position themselves as a joint?
Yeah, they I know they took a bite out of Apple, but they took a big bite out of Disney, and they traded places with the slightly darker rock. So
right, but that's what I mean. So, like, you know, the biggest shareholder of each company is, well, the same now.
And the reason I've been saying this for a while now is, look, if Apple is ever going to make the plunge and buy a studio, I would believe that the first thing they're going to do is go for the gusto. And who is the gusto? Of course, it's Disney. Who do they have the most association with? Disney. What does this move also happen? What happens laterally if this does happen? You get Mr. Lasseter back into the mix as well. So that's another plus. There's so much that goes into this that I don't see the negatives until you hit certain, like, regulations and other things. But as we pointed out on the morning show yesterday, is they've got the money and they've got the right political people on their side, that it's not going to matter at the end of the day. Sure, it may take a little longer, like Andre said, in certain other situations, but I can see them spinning ESPN off to its own entity. I can see them spinning or splitting the parks and the entertainment division. And I can see Apple being very interested in the entertainment division. And maybe Culture's right. Maybe all they want is Fox, since Disney hasn't done jack squat with Fox. Even though we call it Fox, it has nothing to do with Fox, because that's what it's associated with, and that's what people know it as. And that's where I say it was their biggest mistake ever, was dropping the Fox moniker when they bought it. It's like buying McDonald's and saying, we're going to change the name to Fred's. You bought the name, you dumb shit. We all know Fox is dead, but at the end of the day, you haven't really utilized it in any way, shape, or form. Eventually, we're going to get some Alien movies. All the stuff that they have that's worth anything is kind of not worth as much anymore. Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, all are struggling right now. But if anybody would really be able to supercharge them with any kind of, injection of money or using them with synergy, it would be Apple. Like, can you imagine them selling like R2-D2 iPads and shit like that? Like, I can see that easily.
Yeah.
I mean, but at the end of the day, I get what these guys are saying. It is a very implausible kind of situation because of a lot of rich situations, but it's become to a point where I think we're closer to it ever happening than ever happening before. I used to bring up how it might happen in a hostile takeover, because if Disney were to get so bad that Apple or somebody else would swoop in and just take them over, basically, and Apple be one of the people positioned to do so. But it's one of those things where I just don't see Apple going for anybody else at first, because I do agree with Culture that the only other people that they might be interested in would be possibly Paramount, because I'm not even sure Sony and them could deal because of too many overlaps.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
Well, these-
I don't think Sony's got the capitals to do it either.
Well, no, I think Sony wasn't going to be targeted by Apple for what I think Tom was alluding to, because that's a lot of problems that they would have to overcome regulation wise because of their involvement in games and electronic.
Right.
That's what I mean. There's too much that overlaps there with their.
Yeah.
And I look, the reason I see the Fox deal more than I see the Apple as a whole is that it's just easier for them to part with, because outside of like the stuff they got from the Fox deal, they really, as Tom said, they're not doing anything with it. It's just sitting there. You have libraries worth of content, which is the whole thing. Amazon.
The problem with just selling Fox, though, Culture, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah,
it makes sense financially right now. It's the one thing they could do that would get them out of the hole and help them buy Hulu. But then, what the hell's the point of buying Hulu if you ain't got a Fox catalog to put on it?
Well, see,
like that's kind of the whole point. Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm with you, but I think that the caveat would be placed on this, and this is something that I think we talked about the other day when we were roundtabling this in the morning on the show. I still think that they retain access and rights to that for 99 years. They just like what the Barstool deal did yesterday when Portnoy got Barstool back for $1, but anytime he looks to market or sell that business again, he has to hand 50% of the earnings or the profit from that over to Penn Entertainment if he ever elects to sell it. And also, he's got to sign a non-compete agreement, which means he's not going to go into the gaming business. So, they kind of locked him down, but he's already $500 million richer because of that deal. So I don't think he cares much. But I, like I said, I would strongly suspect, like that one deal, they'll lock in those properties to use them for as long as they think they're viable. And that, but it won't preclude obviously Apple from being able to take them. I see an MGM Amazon deal here more than I see anything else. And the other studio I forgot to mention, Tom, and I don't know if you agree, and Andre or anybody else that wants to talk about this, but the only other studio that Apple would go after, I think, would be Lionsgate. Lionsgate just acquired E1 Entertainment, so now they have even more assets to play with. So
yeah, but they don't have anything good. That's what we were asking about.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
No, you're right.
What are they actually getting out of that? And Bombgate, I think would be that would be. I see what you're saying, like with the Amazon MGM deal, but I don't see. Unless they do a lot of television deals together, because I do know Lionsgate does a lot of television, I just don't see Apple slumming it with Lionsgate. To me, that feels like that's a complete mismatch. I don't know. I could be wrong, but
I would agree with that too.
Well, one thing just to hit on something Tom was talking about, and I'm sure probably some people in the chat are curious about this as well. If Apple is interested in mainly the entertainment side of Disney, I'm guessing that would include Disney Plus that they would be getting, as well as Hulu after the first of the year, which they would, I'm guessing, if that's the case, would then merge into Apple Plus and just have one streaming service, correct? Or
yeah, I'd imagine so. I imagine that's what they would do. I mean, it makes sense rather than keep a brand. Well, would it though? Is the brand of Disney Plus strong enough? No, not really. Maybe they would. I don't know.
Well, the value of the streaming is where I think that they've kind of...
It's content, isn't it? That's what they want. They want content.